The third iteration of the Lexus RX is generating increasing interest because, although its prices are relatively high, it can easily replace a new car in a similar class. Perhaps this is why these cars are steadily rising in price. They certainly age slowly, and despite their age, they remain very durable. What should you look for when buying one? The car was unveiled in 2008 as the third generation of the RX. Sales began in Europe in 2009. The concept of the original car, which underwent minimal changes over the years, was retained. Lexus never built the RX as an off-road capable SUV, nor as a multi-purpose family car. The RX was intended to provide comfort primarily for the driver, secondarily for the front passenger, and to provide the maximum experience for both. Even the trunk was not particularly family-friendly, but in the third generation, its capacity increased to an acceptable 496 liters for this class, hybrid 446 liters. Due to its dimensions, 4.77 meters long and 2.74 meters long, the RX can accommodate 2 people in the rear with a sliding rear bench, even adults, but it's not as comfortable in the back as, for example, the Audi Q5 or BMW X5. Interestingly, the same year the third RX was introduced, a competitor appeared in the form of the BMW X6 E71. Despite its coupe styling, this model still outperforms the RX by a class in terms of dimensions, interior space, and practicality. Lexus has incorporated numerous comfort and safety features, including automatic high beams, a head-up display, HUD, keyless entry, a power steering wheel, voice commands, a 15-speaker Mark Levinson sound system, 10 airbags, adaptive cruise control, forward object recognition, and a full suite of stability control systems. Interestingly, this model was not tested by Euro NCAP. However, in the American NHTSA test, which is more stringent in terms of structural strength, it achieved the maximum 5-star rating. The Lexus RX's most important features, for which users appreciate it, include its very low reliability, high level of equipment, high-quality audio, easy operation, and V6 drivetrain. The hybrid was introduced in the previous generation, but this one has been further refined. Importantly, it significantly reduces fuel consumption, which, according to users, is around 8 to 10 liters 100 kilometers, and that's just gasoline. The competition needs a diesel to achieve similar results. During its production run, only one minor facelift was performed. Among the more significant changes, the F-Sport package and a 6-speed automatic transmission were introduced for the 350. Production ended in 2015, and the 4th generation was launched. Only 2 drives and no diesel. Lexus offered only 2 powertrain options for the car. Another one was offered in some markets, a standard V6 gasoline engine and a gasoline hybrid based on a twin engine. This 3.5-liter unit, designated 2GR-FE, successfully powers countless Lexus and Toyota models in the US market. It can be found under the hood of models such as the Camry, Highlander, and Sienna, as well as the Lexus EX. An interesting car it found its way into is the Lotus Evora, also in the GT racing version. The engine installed in the Lexus RX 350 operates in a traditional manner and features indirect injection, but the RX 450h has a slightly modified engine. It's supposedly the same, designated 2GR-FXE, but with a completely different operating cycle, the Atkinson. The fundamental difference between these engines is that due to the cut top-end power, the FXE has less power, 249 horsepower, than the FE, 272 horsepower. However, the electric motor compensates for this loss, so the hybrid ultimately develops a higher system power of 299 horsepower. There are also differences in the transmissions. The hybrid has Toyota's classic eCVT, a continuously variable transmission. The RX 350 has a 5-speed automatic and, after the facelift, a 6-speed automatic. Another design difference is the drivetrain. The 350 uses a traditional shaft drive system with an electronically controlled multi-plate clutch engaging the rear axle. The predecessor still used permanent drive with a center differential. The 450h hybrid offers both front-wheel drive and four-wheel drive systems. The latter installs a second electric motor on the rear axle without impacting maximum power, which, under computer control, provides acceleration when slippage or a high throttle opening is detected. The rear motor produces only 68 horsepower, so it has no impact on acceleration in good traction. It engages sporadically, so it doesn't reduce fuel consumption, although it also serves a recuperation function. The performance of the 350 and 450 versions is similar. For example, the hybrid accelerates to 100 km per hour in 7.8 seconds, compared to the non-hybrid version's 8 seconds. Top speed is identical at 200 km per hour. Only the fuel consumption differences are significant. As mentioned, the hybrid consumes around 10 liters per 100 kilometers, while the petrol version averages around 11.5 liters per 100 kilometers. Contrary to appearances, these are savings that, if you plan to drive this car for a long time, will pay off even if a component of the hybrid system fails. The more city driving you do, the greater the savings. Both engines can be powered by gas, but this will lose a significant amount of space in the already small trunk. An LPG installation for such a car costs approximately 1,200 to 1,700 euros. Fuel consumption increases slightly. Fans of large SUVs will certainly miss the diesel option, but it's important to remember that the RX was designed primarily for the American market and for reliability. Regardless of the drivetrain, the Lexus RX is equipped with air suspension with coil springs. This allows for increased ground clearance, but nothing more. The power steering is electric. The F-Sport variant has a stiffer setup. Overall, the RX remains a rather comfortable car, but not as versatile as, for example, German SUVs, which offer better suspension and a more confident ride. What do users complain about? Primarily the durability of the seat upholstery. It's leather, but so delicate that some have had their seats replaced at the dealership as part of maintaining good customer relations. Not everyone is thrilled with the handling. It's typically front-wheel drive, so it tends to understeer, or the interior's quietness, insulation of the cabin from the surrounding air. The eCVT transmission isn't that much of a problem, as the pleasant sound of a naturally aspirated V6 emanates from under the hood. Of course, the four-wheel drive in the hybrid version is disappointing, as is the air suspension, which in practice offers little benefit. While the Lexus RX could be a model for many modern cars in terms of interior controls, operating the central display with the joystick takes some getting used to. The display is already quite dated, and its graphics are reminiscent of the second-generation Prius. Some find the plastics in the cockpit irritating, but many appreciate the overall build quality. What breaks and what to check? In practice, minor issues do break down. Primarily equipment components, rain sensor, multimedia, air conditioning, although these are rare cases in fairly worn-out cars or those imported from the US. The greatest risk is a failure of the hybrid system, engine, or automatic transmission. These are also rare cases. Battery replacement, for example, isn't yet common. All indications are that they last longer than in Toyotas. It's worth checking with a dealership before buying. Many cars in our market are regularly serviced there. There are no known faults with the hybrid drivetrain yet. It's worth noting, however, that unlike a Prius, few people use the RX as a taxi. However, there are cases where the timing chain needs replacing, but almost exclusively due to neglected oil maintenance. Excessive oil consumption can also occur. In practice, it turns out to be leaks, not fuel consumption. Typically, the engine is sweaty at the top. In many cases, the problem lies in the rubber hose supplying oil to the variable valve timing system. In 2010, it was replaced with a more durable steel one. Another common problem with the RX engine is a failing coolant pump. This causes a loss of coolant, ultimately leading to increased temperatures. Ignition problems can also occur. Replacing the spark plugs or coils is usually sufficient. According to the manufacturer, spark plugs are supposed to last for approximately 160,000 kilometers, but in practice, they should be replaced more frequently. It's also possible that the check engine light indicates a faulty lambda sensor or throttle body. However, the simultaneous illumination of the check engine, AWD, and traction control warning lights usually indicates a malfunction of the variable valve timing system. One of the most irritating areas is the suspension. The suspension sometimes becomes noisy, requiring the replacement of the entire strut assembly. Unfortunately, this costs around 1,200 euros each, as aftermarket replacements are scarce. You can replace just the shock absorbers, but even aftermarket replacements are quite expensive, around €190 each. Lexus servicing requires the use of original equipment parts, which are expensive but high quality and therefore very rare. Car repairs aren't cheap. Moreover, for major issues, you'll need a hybrid specialist or a mechanic willing to help. The transversely mounted V6 and the model's low popularity don't encourage work like sealing or timing belt replacement. When buying a car, you should first check its history for accidents and incidents like floods, inundations, fires, etc. Just a few years ago, these cars were very expensive, so it was worth splurging and trying to figure things out. A checkup at a reputable workshop is the minimum you can do. It's also best to visit an authorized service center and check if the car is subject to recalls and what its service history is. There's one more thing to check: whether the car has four-wheel drive. While front-wheel drive versions are rare, you could simply buy one by accident. In winter or on wet roads, it will lack traction when starting. Worse still, resale won't be easy either. Few people want an SUV without AWD. Is it worth buying a Lexus RX? It's primarily a car for people who want one, not as an alternative to another model. If you're thinking about a BMW X5, but considering an Audi Q5 or even a Volvo XC90, the Lexus will either delight you and you'll buy it immediately, or it will be so disappointing that you won't buy it again. The Lexus RX has certain features that are out of keeping with its competitors. If you like it, you should be aware that despite its age, its maintenance costs are no lower than when it was new. There are many replacement parts available, and used parts aren't as widely available as for Audis, Mercedes-Benzes, or BMWs. The specific design also requires consideration, e.g. the ECVT transmission, the cockpit, and the transversely mounted V6 engine. Nevertheless, 92% of owners of this model would buy it again, which only confirms what I wrote in the previous paragraph.